Does it have to be human?
Welcome to Hedegrader's Retro Reviews, where today we've come downtown to Mushnick's Flower Shop on Skid Row in order to take a look at a strange and unusual game. It's time to have some fun now as we take a look at Feed Me.
You open your trap, you sing and you say,
"Feed me, Carbon! Feed me now!"
Feed Me was released in 1987 by Milton Bradley, coinciding with the smash hit home video release of Little Shop of Horrors on VHS and Betamax that same year. Released in cinemas in December 1986, Little Shop of Horrors was a melodramatic masterpiece based on the hugely successful off-Broadway musical which had been running non-stop since 1982. And that, in turn, had been based on Roger Corman's shoestring budget movie from 1960. Now, it's not an official tie-in by any means, but I'm 100% sure that Feed Me was developed to cash in on the Killer Plant's fame, which is kind of odd since the beautiful box's artwork, which features carefree kids happily tossing balls into the open mouth of a giant plant, invokes thoughts of Sesame Street and the hazy days of playing around the suburbs in gangs, which is in stark contrast with the movie's scenes of dismembered body parts being thrown into the gaping maw of Audrey II. Now, I bought my plant from an old Chinese man in the Hostel Flower District for $1.95, but you'd be hard-pressed to find this game for that kind of price nowadays. Normally it sells on eBay for between £40 and £90 when it does appear, and that's only about 2 to 3 times a year. But this wasn't a limited release by a small company, it was widely available. Even here in the UK, it was available in the Argos catalogue throughout 1988 and 1989. So, why is it such a rare and expensive game today? Well, I've got a theory that we'll explore more later. Feed Me is a game for 2 or more players aged 4 and up, and given its low age range, is an extremely simple game of rolling dice and placing marbles. But if you're buying this game today, it's not going to be for its depth or complexity of play. It's going to be for that strange and unusual plant, the illegitimate cousin of Audrey II. So, let's take a closer look.
Feed me!
The game comes with a special 6-sided dice which has got red spots on 3 of the sides and black spots on another 3 sides. So that means you've got exactly 50-50 chance of getting either red or black on this dice. There are 32 marbles, 16 of them are red and 16 of them are black. We can see that the 16 red marbles only weigh 24 grams, so that means that each red marble is only 1.5 grams in weight. The 16 black marbles, however, weigh 64 grams, so that means that each one weighs 4 grams. So that means that the black marbles are significantly heavier than the red marbles. In fact, 1 black marble is almost the same weight as 3 red marbles, a fact which will come into play later in the game. And of course we've got our main game unit itself, our little hungry plant that we have to feed. And absolutely everything about this screams Audrey II from the Little Shop of Horrors. The sculpt, the detailing, it's just Audrey. It's definitely inspired by. Of course, it's not in the classic Maxwell House coffee tin that the original Audrey II is in the movie when it is small. It's in this flower pot. And this flower pot is nice because it rotates and comes apart so that this base can be used for holding all of your balls so that they don't get lost in storage. That just sits on top and rotates so that it clicks in place. And those balls are not going to get lost or go anywhere. If, like me, you're a big fan of Little Shop of Horrors, then you are going to absolutely love this plant. It looks fantastic. Milton Bradley have put so much effort and love into the sculpt of this thing with all the little details and textures, from all the veins on the top of the pod head here to creases in the lips. We've got the individual veins on the plant leaves here, and the plant leaves have even got these little nodules on them, which I haven't seen on any plant at all other than the Audrey II plant prop from the movie, which makes me think that this was, it's 100% Audrey II. It's not just a cheap rip-off. It looks pretty much spot on. It makes me think that actually Milton Bradley probably were hoping to get an original license tie-in, but maybe that fell through and they had to change the name of the game to Feed Me and have it as an unofficial replica. I don't know. It's just so like Audrey II. It is unbelievable. One of the things I don't particularly like about the look of this game though is this Feed Me sticker on the front here. I don't know what kind of glue Milton Bradley have used, but it's gone kind of see-through here in splodgy patches, and it just looks really kind of ugly. A lot of these ones that I've seen for sale online, when they come up, are actually missing this sticker completely because the glue just dries up and it falls off. When you first buy this game, these 3 large green leaves are separate and have to be clipped permanently into this brown base here. Now that means that when you want to stop playing with the game and put it away, you can't remove these leaves for storage, which unfortunately means that a lot of them are going to snap at these thin stock points here. In fact, the one that I bought had all 3 of these leaves snapped, and I had to drill and pin them as well as glue them to get them back on. And I think this is one of the reasons why there's not many of this game around today, because so many of these leaves would have broken during the game's lifetime and the game unit just would have been thrown out. In order to get the game unit actually ready to play, all we need to do is hold the base and push the head unit back on the neck, which automatically opens up the mouth and holds it in place. And you can see now that Audrey's big yellow tongue with the flower inside is exposed, and this is where we're going to place the marbles. So to actually play the game, the first player takes the dice, rolls it, and places that colour of marble into the mouth. So a red one goes in, and that's that player's turn over. The second player then takes the dice, rolls it, and places that colour of marble in. So a black one this time. And the game just keeps going like that, with players rolling the dice and placing marbles into the mouth, until eventually it gets to such a weight pressing down on this yellow tongue here that it springs the mechanism and it forces the mouth closed. And when that happens, whoever put the last marble in is out of the game. Now, there is one fairly major flaw with this game, and that is if you follow the wording of the instructions and place the marbles into the flower, then they're never ever going to exert enough of a downwards force from their weight in order to overcome the upward force of the 2 springs which are underneath the tongue pressing upwards, combined with the frictional force between the tongue and the mechanism which holds it in place, which is exerted by the tension in the elastic band, which is necessary in order to force the head forward and close the mouth. Even with all 32 marbles in place, there's just not enough weight, and so that mechanism will never be sprung and the plant's mouth will never close, which effectively means that the game is broken. Now, the only way to overcome that problem would be to loosen the tension in the elastic band, but you can't. The elastic band is permanent. There's no way to do that, and even if you did, it would then mean that the elastic band didn't exert enough force in order to push the head forward and close the mouth. So it's a little bit of a problem. However, if you actually watch MB's advert for the Feed Me game, you'll see that the children do not place the marbles in the mouth.
It's the game of Feed Me. I'm a hungry plant. Feed me. Better watch your hand. Toss the dice. They'll tell you how many marbles I must eat. But if I swallow on your turn, you're out. Thanks for the treat. Feed me.
He's a hungry plant.
Feed me.
Better watch your hand.
I don't care who feeds me. Just drop them in my mouth. Give me more. Can't get enough. Oh, won't you feed me now?
I win.
That's right, those kids are actually dropping the marbles in the mouth, and that makes a huge difference to the effectiveness of this mechanism. If you actually drop marbles in one at a time, then it actually works. So now with dropping, we actually do have success, and the different weights of the red and the black marbles means that there is randomness in it, and you can't really predict when it's going to set off that mechanism.
Feed me.
So as you can see, this game's really easy to teach, really easy to learn, and really easy to play. All you have to do is roll a dice and drop in marbles. It's completely random. There's no skill to it, or strategy, or anything. It's not even a dexterity game, because you have to drop the marbles in instead of trying to place them carefully, otherwise it won't work. So if it's such a simple game, why is it so expensive today? Well, I've got a theory. Let's take a look.
Feed me.
So given how simple this game is, why is it so expensive? And I think that comes down to its rarity. But why is it so rare? Because obviously there was a lot of these produced. It wasn't a limited run. So where have they all gone? Well, I think that comes down to two main design flaws. The first, as I mentioned before, is that unlike these flexible red leaves, these large green leaves are made from a very hard plastic which snaps easily at these stock points. And if these leaves get broken off, I think the whole thing would have been thrown out by parents, so they're not around today. Another big problem is the actual gameplay mechanism itself. This elastic band here. Now the elastic band runs from this hook down through these holes in the mouth and then connects inside this bottom jaw piece here to a point on this brown runner that the head slides along, which is connected to the stem, and that's necessary so that the tension of the elastic band pushes the head forward and brings this mouthpiece down. The thing is, if this elastic band at any point during its life snaps, then you have had it, because it cannot be replaced. Unlike other games like crossbows and catapults where the elastic bands snap all the time but can just be replaced, this one is not designed for easy replacement. The elastic band runs down inside and is connected to a point on this brown runner piece of the stock. Now the thing is, it is impossible to get to this connection point without dismantling the thing, and you can't dismantle it because during manufacture, when it was dismantled, it's been glued along here in order to keep it together. So again, if that elastic band snapped, the game becomes useless and parents would have thrown it out, hence making it very rare and expensive today. Of course, as a collector, this piece is over 30 years old, and a 30-year-old elastic band is not going to work properly. And in fact, when I first got this, it just wouldn't work as a game at all, because there was not enough tension in the elastic band in order to move the headpiece forward and to close the mouth. So it just didn't work. I had to spend a long time, literally hours, shining a torch down through these holes and trying my absolute best to access the inside through these tiny little holes in the back here in order to put in a piece of elasticated thread, which I eventually managed to loop around a point underneath this brown runner piece and run it back through here and connect it up and tie it. You had to use pieces of bent wire and some dental tools to do that. It was really fiddly, but I managed it, and thankfully it now works perfectly the way that it should.
Feed me.
So Feed Me in today's market is a deeply flawed game. The mechanism doesn't work properly. It's been constructed in such a way that it breaks really easily, and there's no skill or tactics or strategy involved in playing it at all. It's completely luck-based. So nobody in their right mind is going to recommend this as a game to play. But on the other hand, you wouldn't be buying this today for playing it as a game. You're going to be buying it because it's Audrey II from the Little Shop of Horrors. It just is. Whether it's called Feed Me or has an official name, that's clearly what it is. And on that basis, if you're a fan of Little Shop of Horrors, like I clearly am, then you're going to be wanting this game to add to your collection, because there's no vintage merchandise for Little Shop of Horrors in existence that was brought out at the time. We're getting some things today, like from Funko Pops, so to own a piece of vintage product which ties into the movie so well, a movie that's so well beloved, in fact, it's my favorite musical of all time, then this game can be absolutely priceless. And that's one of the reasons why it goes for such high prices to collectors. Not collectors of board games, but ones who are fans of the movie. So if you are a big fan, this is definitely one I would recommend, if you can get it for a decent price, because this thing goes for crazy prices sometimes. Well, that's it from us here at Mushnik's Flower Shop. We'll be back next time with more Attic Raiders retro reviews. We'll see you then.
Thank you. Come again. Come and look at the wheel of plants some more. It's just going to get bigger and more interesting.